8 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock. But I got some errands to run this morning. I gotta leave in about 15 minutes. 15? About 15 minutes. And head and go do some running around. So I figured instead of waiting until I got back, I'd go ahead and take care of this now. Go ahead and go live. Do 10 minutes with Tim, where I give you 10 minutes worth of my 2 cents. The title of today's show is Maybe Violence is the Answer. And maybe it is. We don't know. So, people say violence isn't the answer. But when you really think about it, most of the things that we have, most of the rights that we have currently were bought with violence. So, why isn't violence the answer if it gets results? You know, we have people fought for the right to have like a weekend from work, not work on the weekends. People fought for the 40-hour work week. People fought to get demanded breaks during the work day. People rioted for all those things. You know, there was bloodshed, there was a death toll, the right to vote for women and people of color. You know, there was beatings and torture and, you know, all of this stuff, sort of stuff. There was rioting for that. There was a death toll for that. Almost everything that we consider a modern day comfort, somebody else died for. So if that's the case, maybe violence is the answer. You know, people want to sit back and from the comfort of their couch and, you know, say violence isn't the way, but maybe it is. It's always been the way. You know, if you look back at history, you know, read about child labor laws, all the civil rights movements, you know, union riots, all of those things were bought and we're afforded those things by the fight of someone else. You know, and right now, if you just look at what's going on in the world right now, you know, people are angry, people are scared, people are hungry, people want something different. They're not happy with the way that they're being treated. Not everyone, obviously, but there are groups of people who aren't happy with the way they're being treated, who are mad, who are willing to, quote unquote, fight, shed blood, get violent for the things that they believe in. And if you look at history, throughout history, that's exactly how things have gotten changed. Peaceful protests and and I'm not promoting violence per se here. I'm just kind of giving you the thought process behind why things get violent, right? You know, peaceful protest only goes so far. You know, people were told, you know, well, if you're going to protest peacefully. So they tried that, and it didn't work. The same things happen over and over again. And eventually, there's a tipping point. You can only back a wild animal into a corner for so long before it's going to try to get out, right? Like it's gonna snap. And I'm not calling anyone a wild animal. I'm just saying, using that as a metaphor, like you can only push someone so far before they're gonna fight. And people are starting to fight, and they might lose. The quote unquote revolutionaries in this particular case might not be as strong or as prepared as the people they're going to be fighting against. But that's not going to stop them from fighting. And at the end of the day, that's how this country was built, right? Like, this country was built on the backs of people who weren't as strong and weren't as prepared as the people they were fighting against, but they still fought and they won. So to say that these people that are going through this right now don't stand a chance or aren't fit for this type of thing, or they're Tide Pod eating, TikTok dancing kids. I hate when people say that kind of stuff. Not every young person is a Tide Pod eating kid. You know what I mean? Like, that's not how the world works. It's not always black and white. So they might not be as strong. They might not be as prepared. They might not be as well trained. But it's looking to me and to a lot of other people like they're going to fight anyway. And if they're going to fight, the other group probably needs to get ready, get prepared. If you want America to stay the way it is now, you should probably be prepared to fight. Because I feel like there's a fight coming, and if you just let them win, it's not going to stay the way you want it. So on both sides of the coin, if you want change in America, you're going to have to fight for it. Whether that's peaceful protest, voting, trying to change the way the government works, or violent fight, whatever the case is, however you choose to fight, whatever fight you choose to take up, you need to be prepared for that fight. So people on the we need change in America side, prepare yourselves and do what you have to do to create that change. People on the America's fine the way it is and we need to keep America great, if that's the case, if that's how you believe, you need to prepare and you need to be ready for when the other people decide it's time to fight. Because they're going to decide. It's coming. I can just about guarantee it. It's coming soon. America's due, as it were, for a shift, for a change. And if you're not ready, the things that you don't want to happen are going to happen. So both sides need to be prepared. Both sides need to be ready. And again, I'm not promoting violence. I'm not saying that we just need to go and right now go ahead and start shooting. You know what I mean? But that's what's most likely going to happen. I just don't see any other way to get through all of this. I don't feel like peacefully is going to work, because peacefully's been tried. Peacefully has been tried over and over and over again. If it wasn't for bloodshed, if it wasn't for war, then blacks in America would still be slaves. Blood had to be shed for that. Now, blood might have to be shed again to wake people up and say, you know, something's wrong here. You know, no one knows what the solution is, and no one will know which solution would have been better. So if we keep trying peaceful and it eventually works, we'll never know if violent, quote unquote, violent, would have worked better, because we didn't try that. If we try violent and it works or doesn't work, we'll never know what the alternative would have been, because we didn't try that. So there's no wrong answer necessarily. Like, you know, again, kind of to summarize, because I think I'm getting to the end of my 10 minutes. It's easy to sit back on the couch with your phone in your nice air-conditioned house and say, there's nothing wrong in America. Violence isn't the answer. Why are you out here causing problems? It's a much different America on the other side of that coin, where people are living in houses or in apartment complexes where, you know, there might not be AC all the time, or we can only run it for a few hours a day because we can't afford the power bill otherwise. You know, this couch we have has been in this apartment for 50 years and, you know, it's falling apart and it's not comfortable anymore. We don't have a comfortable couch, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on, right? It's easy to sit on the easy street side of the coin and say, we don't need any change. My house is fine. But it's real difficult to look at the other side of the coin and go, man, maybe we do need some change, because you're comfortable, right? You're comfortable in your house, so you don't want change. You don't want anything bad to happen. But people on the other side of the coin need change and don't care how they get it. They don't care who they have to go through to get it. Whether that's right or wrong is not the point right now. What's the point is, they need change, whether you agree with it or not. And they're to the point now, people are to the point now where they're going to fight for it if that's what they need to do. Like, violently fight for it if that's what they need to do. Literally fight for it if that's what they need to do. And if you get in the way, you might lose. I don't know. But if you go to those places and you look at those things and you get into the trenches, you'll see that America isn't this great place that you think it is. There's flaws in America, lots of them. And not everybody, let me rephrase. Everybody can get themselves out of the situation that they're in, because the situation you're born in, I don't believe that the situation that you're born in is the situation that you have to live out, right? Like, play the hands that you were dealt. No, I think you can get a new hand. I do. But that's going to take education. That's going to take putting our resources into teaching people that they don't have to live, like, we'll just use like lower income, poverty stricken, like trap, like the trap, right? Like, you don't have to be trapped. You don't have to sell drugs and try to make it as a rapper, quote unquote, you know, to like play into that stereotype. There are other ways out. But that's not being told to, or an athlete, right? That's not being told to these kids from the beginning. They're being told, look, man, like, you're growing up poor, like, your dad's probably not around, you know, et cetera, whatever. Like, you've got no shot. When you tell people they've got no chance any other way for so long, they're gonna find a way. They're gonna figure out, they're gonna come together and say, man, these people have been telling us the wrong information. We gotta do something different. And the everyday life that exists out here in these streets, as it were, right, is a life of violence. It's a life of drug dealing. It's my dad went away for 25 years for selling crack. It's like, these are real things that happen every day to kids in inner cities, right? So when that's the life they see and that's the life they know, and I'm not talking about just black people, I'm talking about white people, I'm talking about anybody that lives this life. When that's the life you know, the only way you know to fix it is through the things that you know. And the things that you know are violence. And so that's what you're going to use. That's the tool you're going to use if that's the tool that you have, right? You can only use the tools at your disposal, and the tool at their disposal is violence, essentially, right? Like the tool they know of, at least. So again, I said to summarize once, but to summarize for real this time, because I actually have to go. I personally feel like there's war coming, quote unquote war, right? But at the same time, I also feel like maybe violence is the answer. Maybe the people at the top in America need to be knocked down a peg or two, right? And you got to do something to knock them down. So again, I'm not promoting violence necessarily. I'm not promoting a war or whatever, like a civil war, as it were. But I think anybody with a little bit of foresight can see that is a real thing that could be happening. So be prepared, right? That's all I can tell you is to get ready, because it could happen. So yeah, that's it. That's 10 Minutes with Tim, where I give you 10 minutes worth of my 2 cents. If you had fun watching this and you agree or don't, give me a little share action. Send it off to your friends and let them watch it. The video clip will be up later on YouTube. The audio version will be up later on all your favorite podcast platforms. So you can go back and listen. You can go back and watch on YouTube. You can watch right here. But please go follow us everywhere you can find us, the Grayscale Podcast. And give us a share. Tell your friends about us. Get them to like the page too. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Going Black.